Hi there, and welcome to Military Histories, a podcast from York Army Museum. Each week we share an interview from the Royal Dragoon Guards audio archive. Throughout May and June we will be sharing interviews with World War II veterans. You can find more details about the Royal Dragoon Guards Oral History project in the show notes. If you want to find out a bit more about our museum, there are links to our website and social media channels in the show notes too. In this week's interview you can hear Mr Archie Carr describe his wartime experiences from arrival in Normandy through to the end of the Second World War. He discusses his award of the Distinguished Conduct Medal and the later theft of his medals. Mr Carr served with the 5th Inniskilling Dragoon Guards from 1935 to 1945. Thanks for listening. Future episodes will drop every Friday.
We were watching others go over and we were still sitting in these tents waiting. I think the reason we was all held in back was that we were waiting to take over of the London Yeomanry. And whether it because of that, I don't know. But another week passed and then we got nearly half of the camp that we'd been are already gone over and it come our turn to go. So when we went over there, we went over without tanks, just as we were. And got into a field, the military police and a lot met us on the beach. And the beach were more or less a bit quiet then because they'd moved from the beach and took the beaches over and were moving inland then. And we put in a field to camp there. And very first night, we could hear the bombs dropping and all this shelling and that were going on. But touch wood, we were all right. And then the weather picked up. And I shall always remember the first time when they said, would you like to go in have a swim? Any of you like to go in the sea and have a swim? And they said, yes, well, it's quiet enough. We can get up this bay and get out there. And 3 or 4 got into trouble. And the padre said, form a link with us, arm in arm. Let's form a line. I'll walk out in front and you keep following, but hold on to somebody. Keep holding on. And we got out, we got up to our chest in the water and we were still walking forward, trying to pick up these that were in trouble. And a big wave came, broke the chain, the link as we got of the chain, and the padre and 3 or 4 at the front, they were washed out as well. And as it happened, the padre, when we finished, we come back, all rushed back as could do, got back onto the beach, because the line were broken and we're nothing else, so we got back in and then we found out that the padre had been washed away and a couple more. So that was our first of action, not of action, but seeing our own men die and before we'd even fired a shot.
Well, did that have a big effect on morale? Did that have a big effect on the troops' morale and their feelings?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think everybody were just fed up of hanging about and wanted to get into action.
Yeah, but when you lost the padre and the other guys,
yeah,
it must have been quite depressing.
It was depressing then, yeah, because that padre was a bloody grand chap he was.
Did you know him well?
Yeah, he'd been with us quite a time, you see. When we were up along Framlington, it was the same padre then. Yeah.
So when you go back to the beach, was the beach busy? Was there vehicles going all over?
Yeah,
was it hot? Was there lots of shipping there? Was there any kind of barrage going on then, or was it just like a beach?
No, they covered the beach. We weren't having any trouble shelling the beach, and they were unloading supplies. That was it. The biggest cargo boats were coming in now, and we more or less got. I think we must have had control over the sky, because we never got much of that. If we got any shell at all, it was in the darkness at night when the bombers couldn't see them coming over. But in daylight, I think it seemed to be pretty peaceful on the beach.
And when you were camped in the field, was it hot?
Yeah, it was damn warm, yeah.
And so what did you do when you were just hanging about? Was
Yeah.
there anything you could do?
Oh, nothing to do. just hanging about, march and have lectures on different things and that. We're still waiting. The colonel at the time, what was his name now?
Swetnam.
Eh?
Swetnam.
He was up at headquarters trying to how long it was before we could go into action. And then when we got killed, we got put in with the one of the finest divisions ever been, weren't they? The Desert Rats. 1st and 5th Royal Tank Regiment and us. So we were the 3 tank regiments in the division.
So when you got the orders that you were going into the line, that you were finally going to drive off, and you got your vehicles.
We got our vehicles, yeah.
After all these days and days of waiting,
yeah.
What happened as you pulled off into it? How do you remember those days?
Well, I remember was they split the squadrons up a bit. Now, said me on one squadron would be advanced squadron, then the others back behind. So I can't remember who actually started, but the first day A squadron were sent into action at the front. We were told to go down the Bacard and move along that road there, and that's the first time. And it brings back to memory then that we were trying to take it easy, but these young officers, I've said after, they were so keen to get cracking, they couldn't wait. They wouldn't listen to any reason. And I can always remember Philo getting excited, and he said, come on, got to get moving, get over that road there. And I said, hang on a bit. I said, we better find out whether there's anybody covering that road, haven't we? Come on, we'll find out. Off we go. Well, so I didn't tell my tank driver to move, and he got impatient, so he shot on in the front. And I told you what happened. He hit the main crossroads, and the German anti-tank gun straight through the tank. Driver and co-driver, Booth and Hodson, both killed outright, and the explosion blew him out the tank. He was stood up in the bottom of the tank so it blew him out. And he was sent away. We never saw him anymore till the war ended. Never saw him anymore.
And was that the first time that you were actually in action?
Yeah, that's the first day.
So and how do you remember how did that affect you? Did that make you sort of?
No, I think it was a good idea. Realising now that you couldn't go mad at anything. You had to be careful what you did and not go out mad as though you were going nothing. I mean, the German soldiers, they weren't a soft touch. They'd been brought up well. They knew how to handle everything. So we were up against a good enemy, weren't we?
I would have thought so, yeah. But I don't know. I wasn't there.
Well, I do. I mean, they were no mugs, the Germans. So we just had to take care. On any road, we got settled in there, moving along, and then a sniper got me. Hit my headphone here, hit the earpiece, took a little bit of my ear off, and I was actually taking my headphones off, and it caught my finger here and my ear, and the headphone, all three went on together like that. So I just bandaged myself up and carried on. Then the squadron leader, about a couple of hours later, we were still moving about. Where that tank had been crossed out, we left it and moved on. We were still on the job to move forward, you see. And when he saw me, he said, you better go and have it treated, you see. So I said, I'll leave it. So I wasn't in hospital or anything. They just sent me down to have it treated and put bandaged up at the first aid done. Then we carried on after, no different.
What happened in a typical day? You know, how much sleep did you get, and how did you sleep at night? What was the form?
This is it. I mean, I always slept like a log. I don't know whether anybody else did, but we used to dig a trench, a 4 foot by 6 trench, about a foot deep, or 18 inches, say. Dig that out. Then we get underneath, lay ground sheets and a blanket, and all lay together under this tank. Then when we got in position, the driver, we left him out, but the driver had to drive the tank over the top of us. You follow what I mean? So if anybody bombed us, they'd have to hit the tank and they couldn't get at us because we were underneath it. Do you know what I mean? So we were as safe as, I always thought we were as safe as houses under there. And we slept all right. And we always slept like that. Till things got better. And we didn't need to get these trenches and all that. When we got Jerry on the run then, that changed it, didn't it? We didn't have to do that then.
And what did you eat? What did you eat every day? What was your food rations like? What were they?
No, the food were all tin stuff. And they're still selling it now, I reckon. We got tin potatoes, tin carrots, just the same as you do today, as you buy today. Tin rice puddings, tin bacon, tin corned beef. We never ate. We always used to get this to the as we went past the villages in Normandy and that, they were all half starving, so we gave them all the corned beef we didn't want and kept the rice puddings for ourselves. But yeah, the food was quite good.
Did you have to cook it yourself, or did
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, if we just wanted eating, they have heating tins, the tin, just to boil some. What did we get there? Get the not the petrol. We'd soak something in.
Methylated spirits.
That's it, in that most part.
Tell me the story again, using the word.
Yeah, lighted that, and we didn't hot much stuff up now. But some might get a soup and hot that up, but the others we could manage all right.
What was France like? What did the place look like? What was it? What was the countryside like? What is the buildings like?
That was absolute hell. The villages, some villages were absolutely flattened, nothing. Just rubble. As they retreated, Germans, they blew everything up they could before we got there. It was terrible. They really did suffer in Normandy in France. But as we went farther on, they were having to retreat quicker. The faster we went, the faster they go. So they hadn't got a lot of time to blow villages up in Holland and that. They did a few, but nothing like Hector Montfort. They got it a bit, but nothing like Normandy and France had been.
One of the things that really interests me, because I hear a lot of people talking about it that have had this experience, is that when combat starts, it's sort of, in any unit, it sorts the men from the boys. There are people that suddenly realise they can't do it, and there are others that do it. Yeah. Did you experience that with the people that you were around you? There were some people that could do it, some people were no good at it.
Not they're bad. There were one or two a bit nervous, but don't forget these lads are coming. I was 23, 24, and I'd had years of experience. I've been in Palestine, and I got a lot of experience. These lads had just come from England and never fired a live shot, had they? So one or two of them was a bit nervous, like, you know. But I knew one or two, but God bless them, some of them are dead now. But they were young lads, and we tried our best to calm them down a bit, you know.
Did you get much instruction in terms of orders about what to expect on the next day and on the next day?
Oh, yeah, you had that every night.
How did that happen? Who came to you?
Well, the colonel would be back with HQ, and we'd be BC and Air School, the fighting squadrons. Then at night, they'd call in all troop leaders, squadron leaders and troop leaders. If it wasn't very much information they could be, it'd be squadron leaders only. And then the squadron leader would come back and talk to his own 4 troop leaders. He'd tell you then what happened. But if it was going to be a big push or something like that, the colonel will have all troop leaders there.
What was your equipment like? How did you rate your equipment?
Well, I think we had a brain gun, didn't we? If we needed outside, understand. The only thing was that our tanks weren't built like the old Tiger tank, were they? They weren't stood up. They were a bit. Germany were more advanced with their tanks, the Tiger tank, and it took years, months and months for us to bring up something. Then we finished up with the Comet tank, which was quite good, but still wasn't as good as the Tiger tank. So we had to find ways of getting through without head-on with the Tiger tanks, you see. So if we could find and come up on their right or left flank and come round them, we get more chance of getting them as we could. If we could get within about 100 yards, 150 yards and fire, you could hit the Tiger tank then. But for long distance shooting, no. So it paid us more or less to creep round, and that's when the colonel and the officers sorted out which map we were on and what we were going, and find a way around to get round them and come in from the side. We were pushed on then. You see, the system was worked in our regiment was you'd have 1 squadron in the front and 2 in reserve all the time. So this particular, on the particular run of the Rissel they called it, didn't it? The river, was A squadron. That was us. So the squadron leader said, take 2nd troop and go wrong to the left, another one to the right, and try and find out if there's any way across in this river if you come to anywhere. Well, we found an old wooden bridge over a weir. And I thought, that is you're going across. It was right across. And there was an old man at the end in a little wooden hut to more or less looking after the bridge, I suppose, seeing for traffic going over. So I saw this bridge. I thought, well, we're going to try this. So he said, one tank first, go first. So I sent 1 tank over, and he got across. So as soon as I got across, I went over, and the other 2. So we got 3 tanks over there, and all we were getting was small arms fire. Rifle shots, that's all. So we just shut down and spread out about 400 or 500 yards on the other side of the river, and we're holding that bridge. So I rung back to the squadron leader and said, we've got this bridge and we're on the other side and we're holding the bridge for you. And they said, oh, good. So it finished up, the whole division crossed on that bridge.
And it's still there?
Yeah, well, it's been built up lovely, and it's a lovely bridge now, but it was an old wooden one with sleepers. I didn't think it would take all that weight, but it did.
And were you aware that the other bridges had been blown?
Well, we'd seen them blown, but we didn't know how far up. We've gone 3 or 4 miles up this river looking for bridges, and that when we found this weir bridge. But how far they've been blown further along, I don't know. But it couldn't have been anybody else, because I said they finished up with the whole division crossing this bridge. Oh, the armoured division, I mean, not the...
And then that was when the Germans were really on the run by then.
Yeah, they were. They'd left. I mean, normally, if they wanted to protect that bridge, they'd have left some more than some hand, wouldn't they?
Well, maybe they thought no one could get it.
Well, they had a couple of anti-tank guns or some guns there, wouldn't they? But they we pushed up that bridge and went on a good mile or two before. Then, of course, the regiment were all behind. They were away like mad. They were running away like mad then.
Were you taking lots of prisoners at this time, or there was not?
Not a lot, no. I took. I got a tip off once that there was a German regiment about 2 miles up the road in a field, and they'd stopped there for food. They got in a lay-by light, and they got there, and they said there's a full regiment there. So I didn't know whether this Dutchman were telling the truth or not, but I said, righto, we'll go up there. So we went up, saw them in this camp, sent one tank there, left hand, then went forward with the guns lined up, and they couldn't do anything. They were stood up, queuing up for meals with mess tins when we got with. And I rung up the squadron leader, and I said, we've got a regiment, a German regiment here, a foot regiment. I said, and I've got out and I've spoke to the officer, did they want to surrender? And he said he'll only surrender to an officer. So Gibson said to me, give him 2 minutes to surrender or shoot him. So I went to him, I said, he spoke English well, and I said, I've just been in touch with the headquarters and they're giving you 2 minutes to surrender or I've got to shoot you. So I said, not only me, but I said, I've got 3 tanks, you can see them all here, all the guns are facing you, 2 machine guns and a 75mm on. I said, no, it's up to you. So he said, right, I'll surrender. So I said, well, get them lined up. So he lined them up, and I said, right, march, we'll go back now, take you back towards headquarters. And they got him on the road and started marching on. I thought, well, I can't do much with these. When you're in a tank, you can't look after infantry, 100-odd infantry, while you're in a tank very well. So I told Gibson that. He said, well, hand them over to any of our troops you come across. And I come across a regiment, I don't know whether, a light infantry now, I don't know whether it's Somerset or the East Line. But I said, got to roll the tank up. I said, you couldn't take over these, could you? Because I said, I've got to join the squadron and we're making a push over there with the tank. Could you hold these prisoners? And he said, yeah, leave them with us. So I left them with them and I pushed on then. But there was about nearly 200 of them.
What do you think about going back, and what sort of emotions and feelings does it sort of stir in you?
Yeah, well, you start bringing back memories of any lads who were killed there, like, you know. A lot of the lads I mean, everywhere we went, there was always somebody had been killed. And you go to the cemetery and you see this grave, like Aden. We got 6 lads buried at Aden Cemetery, you know. Aden. I shall always remember that trip along the railway line, up on an embankment about 10 foot high, and the East Lancs infantry was behind the lines, you know, on this what do you call it when they're on a hill on the line on
Embankment.
On the embankment. They were down below on the open fields. We were high up, 10 foot high, on a single railway line running from Newland into Togenbosch. And that was the only way, we'd been told that was the only way we can get any armour in to assist them in Togenbosch. So we went along this railway line. Then when we got off at the other end, we swung off the line into the town itself, and the general were there, and he said, oh, thank God you made it. He said, I never thought you would. I said, well, why? He said, because 2 days ago there was artillery in that wood there covering the road coming in, and they run out of ammunition. So they left the guns and went.
When you're talking about woods and heavy cover, and I'm thinking about Normandy. When I go back to Normandy, all I see in Normandy is woods and hedges and things that would make me think that it was a very hard place to fight in a tank battle.
Yes, but I mean, when we got there, by the time we got there, it wasn't a nice place of hedges and that then. It was all blown to hell, wasn't it? It was nothing for us to go along the road and see about 8 cows lying dead where they'd been blown up on the side of the road. That was the picture we got in them days, is that. So when you go back now, and there's lovely houses been built and roads, and you're going back 50 years, you can't believe what it looked like 50 years ago, you see.
Did you find it hard coming back to peacetime when you stopped the fighting? Was there sort of a big change in you?
Well, I'll tell you when it had ended. We'd just gone through Hamburg, and Hamburg was a hell of a mess. Nothing but rubble. We went through Hamburg, and we got to a little village called Brunsbüttel, just by the Kiel Canal. And we halted there, stayed there. The war had ended, finished. Came over the air then, stay where you are for not till you get told what to do. So we stayed there, and this tiny little village by the side there, nearly, I'd say 70% of the men spoke enough English to talk to you. But we were told no fraternisation. But these chaps who were living there, they'd been going to England 3 or 4 times a year with cargo boats. And they were going across to Hull and the east coast of England, different ports along that way. So they've picked up the English and that there, and they more or less said, well, we're glad it's all over now, let's get settled in now, and that's it. But we weren't supposed to be talking to them, but they were so friendly and wanted to come out. We were giving them white bread, and they hadn't seen any white bread for weeks, and we got real friendly with them, you know.
Did you think your life had changed because of the war?
I think it changed so much that you don't give 2 damns now what happens. You were lucky to come out of it. If we come out of it, we were lucky. And I think I was lucky because we had a lot of near-do's. But I was lucky, so I thought, well, from now on, I'm not going to worry about anything now. I'll take things as they come. And I think everybody else had the same idea then.
I mean, is it too much to say that you enjoyed the war? Did you enjoy the war?
Well, there were some... You enjoyed part of it. I know the war, but nobody wanted to be a war. Nobody wanted it. We didn't want it. We enjoyed being in the army, but we knew if we were in the army, we joined up to fight for the country, hadn't we? You join up for that. And we could have been sent to the Middle East, couldn't we? Africa, the Africa campaign. And all these on, and we were sending troops to India for Burma, and I kept missing all these transfers to other regiments. I were missing them all. I was still staying with my own regiment I joined with, and yet we were losing no end of being transferred. And then they started forming regiments now, ready for D-Day. 22nd Dragoons, 23rd Hussars. We'd never heard of them things before. So they put so many regular soldiers and officers and then called up the conscripts and they formed another regiment. And I was still left with the old regiment. And you get so attached to it, I never want to leave. Then when we went into action, it was the same in action. It was skins this and skins that. Everybody help each other. Family. It was more a family, the regiment, than a regiment.
Did you ever think that there was ever a time when your number was up? Were you ever really afraid for your life?
No, I wasn't. I don't know. I used to do some mad things. I mean, when we got to Ghent, there was a dockside there, harbour side there, and the Jerrys were there, and they were covering. They got Ghent. They were holding it, and we had to go and get it if we could. And there was a bridge there, and you know those bridges that they open out like a dock, you know, if you're up the canals where they used to open the
yeah, I can't remember what. Swing bridge. Swing bridge. A swing bridge.
That's right. And we couldn't get this bridge, and we said, if we could get over the bridge, if we get the bridge going, all right. So I said, well, I'll go up there. So I jumped out the tank, got a long cord rope, and fastened it onto this bridge to the tank. And I thought, put the tank in reverse and it'll pull that bridge over with it, you see. And as soon as they saw what we were doing, they opened up with fire. And I could see the bullets were coming around the floor at the side of me, and I was behind this wooden, it's about this thick, you know, the swing bridges they've had, all behind there. And then when they saw it, our tank started opening fire to them. Then I run back to the tank, got in it, and pulled it out. That bloody rope broke before we could pull the bridge. The rope broke, so we never did. But, I mean, I were mad to get out in the first place, wasn't I? When Jerry were there. But I don't know, you don't think of these things when you're doing it. You do damn mad things, don't you? We got in trouble once with some hard artillery, and had 3 tanks, and 2 tanks were blown up, and my tank was hit, but not put out of action. And I see 2 of my lads there had jumped out the tanks, but been wounded, jumping out, you know. The rest were in the tank had been blown up, but 2 of them jumped out. And I went and carried one bike, and the squad leader went off his damn dead, he said. I said, well, I couldn't leave him lying there. I said he was alive. So I put him back on a tank, and I was going back for the other. And he said, if you go back, I'll shoot you. So, but I mean, you don't think of it. You're not, I don't know whether I'm anybody, I don't think any of the lads are different to me. You do these things on the spur of the moment, and it doesn't worry you. You don't think of anything happening. You don't think it's going to be you. You don't think it's going to be you.
When did you learn that you got the DCM?
Well, how did I learn? Squad leader sent for me, and he said, I've just been informed that you've been awarded the DCM. And he said, then I started getting, I got letters from 2 generals, General Lime and another one, and they sent me the ribbon, and they said, you'll get your medal later. But he said, you'll have to come. Montgomery will have a do on the field. And he got us all on the field. Oh, all those who got a medal in the last 3 months, MMs and everything. And you got in the field and he just stood on the platform and you went up and got the medal. And then he went on.
You must have felt pretty good.
Eh?
Did you feel pretty good about that?
Did I what?
Feel very good about it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm pleased about it, yeah. But Gibson was. Our squad leader was so thrilled about it. He invited me in the mess. I'd never been in before, a Sergeant's mess, and all the officers were in there, and he asked them all to stand when I went in. Gibson. He was a good man to me. He was like a father to me. Good chap. It's supposed to be the second highest medal you can get to the VC for other ranks. It's the second highest. But I don't know. I had mine stolen, you know. All my medals were stolen. Had to get another lot.
Where were they from your house?
Eh?
Were they stolen from your house?
No, stolen from we went to a regimental reunion. And we had a coach. So we said, took your medals out, you don't want to wear them, leave them on the coach. So we left a coat, or overcoat, anything we didn't want left on the coach. And I don't think for this day that driver locked the coach up. But anyway, when we came out from the reunion and got in the coach, our case, little jewel box with the medals and the wife's wristwatch and all that sort of stuff, we'd gone. So I reported it straight away. And they said, all right. So the next thing we knew was that, the DCM League at London, their headquarters, as soon as they got to know about it, they set Scotland Yard to try and trace it. But they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't find anything, nothing they could do. They didn't know witnesses or nothing. Then about 3 or 4 years later, they went up for auction in Christie's. So Christie's rung to the regiment and they said that, you got a ex-Sergeant Carr in your regiment? He said, well, he was, yeah, what about it? So we've got his medals up for sale. Would the regiment like to buy them? And he said, well, the man's still alive, I'm still here. But I was on holiday and didn't know all this were going on. So they said, I don't know about it. So when I come back, they said, your medals are at Christie's. And they wanted to know about it. Did you know it'd been pinched? Were you in need of money? I said, no, I don't want any money. I want my medal. They said, well, we told Christie's we couldn't do anything about it till we'd seen you. Well, instead of Christie's waiting, they put it up for sale the next day, and they were sold about 4,000 or 6,000, I think they got. Had 8 medals, Palestine medal, the war medals, and all that. And any road, General Anderson was General of Command then, and he got to know about it. So he had me a new set of medals, got me, free, and got the DCM and the Palestine medal and bars and the other medals, and he had a full set sent me. I didn't pay a penny. He bought me them, General Anderson, and sent them to me. And he said, sorry about all the trouble you've had and that. But we rung up Christie's after. They tried everything, and they wouldn't. They said we're not law. We haven't got to notify who buys them. Who we sell them to is secret. And that's all we got. And Christie's did that, and I never did get the medals back. I've had to have another set, a duplicate set, but the originals, they went.
They never found out who was putting them up for sale.
They had Scotland Yard and no end, and Christie's, the secretary of the DCM League. They're interested because it's one of their men's medals, isn't it, DCM? They tried, they couldn't do anything about it. No.
Well, it was stolen property, wasn't it?
Stolen property. Never got it.
Amazing.
A Squadron was always away from the regiment. Even when the regiment moved to Northampton, HQ, B and C Squadron were billeted in Northampton. A Squadron was sent to a village in Malton, where we are now. And it's always like that. So you knew everybody in your squadron, but you met others in the Sergeant's mess and that, out of B&C squadron. But there were a hell of a lot you never knew in the other squadrons because you never saw them. You didn't see them. It was a proper family knit affair, the A squadron. The officers knew everybody, we knew every officer, and they knew everybody about you and family. And
so the other people you met by chance, really?
Well,
anybody else you ran into by chance?
Yeah.
So when you ran into Recce Squadron, it was by chance, really?
Yeah, I did, yeah. It was just by chance they came through. I remember Bill Anna. He was my operator for a time, came from Northampton. He married at Northampton, same time as I married. He was my wireless operator. He had his head blown off. He was buried in Aden cemetery. I've been twice to look at his grave, seen him there. Major Gibson, our squadron leader, we kept in touch when the war ended. And 2 or 3 times a year I'd have a letter from him and I'd write to him. Then he had a hunting accident, he was killed, broke his neck. And his wife still corresponds every year. Probably twice a year I get a letter from her, and she's in an old people's home on the Scottish borders. So I do keep in touch with them as much as I can. But like I said, they're going off that fast now. I had a lot of pals, young lads. I often think of them then now, but they're all going now. Had Billy Dunn. Now Billy Dunn, I never knew whether it was his nerves or he took about believing in Jesus and anything. No. But he always had a New Testament with him, and that was issued to us all. We all had a New Testament issued to us in the army, little bit New Testament book. And every time we pulled up anywhere, if you went to see him, he was always sat reading this book. And he got shot, so I don't know. And then you think about all these lads who's gone, and you think back of all of it. I've always said that. I think of that. I was damn lucky to come out of it, wasn't I?